Hello, everybody. Welcome along. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel. Please leave your bias at the door and join us for the latest championship review and reaction. And we are up to round 24. Well done. If you are here, we're earlier than normal. It is 9:30. I wanted to get in the watch along with Sheffield United and Spurs later for dearly departed. So it all gets a little bit one after the other if we go at 10:30 or 10 indeed. So we are going to go through each and every one of the championship games. Only 9 of them this past game week with the 3 postponements. If you are up and early and with me in the feed, get your comments in per game as we go. We'll try and keep it focused on each game at a time, and we'll talk about every single one and get as many of your views in as we can. If you're watching on delay, of course, get involved in the comments down below. Before we get into the action, let's do our pluggery. Is that a word? Pluggery. We need to say thank you to our fan sponsor, who is Russ, fan and now friend, despite Ben's terrible taste in football team. Thank you to Russ, who is the sponsor of all of our review shows. You too can get involved in that business over on Patreon, as you can see ticking along the bottom there. Lots of exclusive stuff and, frankly, the saviour of many people in COVID times, those of us without jobs. Patreon has been fantastic. So everybody who has chosen to go and get involved over there, I thank you very, very kindly. Obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. But the most important thing you can do is comment as we go. Finally, you can support the channel via Super Chat at any time during the show. As ever, the first Super Chat in the stream becomes the king of the bin. So if anyone goes in the fake news sin bin, you own the rights to the sponsorship for the duration of the show. A little bit of fun that we've put out there with the juvenile success of the fake news sin bin. And we'll have all of that ticking along the bottom. I should plug Teesprings as well, so merchandise over there. Right, let's get into this. Let's say hi in the chat to David and to Honeygun. Mr. E says, morning, Ben, morning all. Another Sunday morning worshipping at the Church of the Championship, of course. And well done, you three. I think maybe the early start, there you go, Richard says, has caught a few people out. We did plug it, I promise. But look, we'll try and produce as high a quality show. And if people are watching on delay, then that's absolutely fine by me. Here are our championship results for round number 24. Again, 3 postponements in there, so only the 9 games for us to speak of. It was Borough 0, Birmingham 1 in the 12:30, Blackburn 1, Stoke 1, Bournemouth 0, Luton 1, bit of a surprise one there, Bristol City 2, Preston 0, Cardiff 1, Norwich 2, the leaders win, Coventry and Wednesday postponed, Derby 0, Rotherham 1, Forest 3, Millwall 1, QPR and Wickham and Reading and Brentford both postponed, Watford 2, Huddersfield 0, and in the late game, the watch along that I'm sure some of you were with me for was Barnsley 0, Swansea 2. As ever, we'll go from the top downwards. So that is your running order ticking along the bottom for those people who ask, have I done their team yet? Generally, sorry, there's a few more good mornings here. Steve, Russ, John, Adam, Liam. Oh dear, Richard, I don't know where to start with us. Depressing. Sophie's been watching the cricket. Now, I saw some people, my friend Ben from the Blades pod, scheduling his evening because there was big NFL games as well and cricket as well. I hope the NFL and the cricket went well, but I don't think Sophie's been to bed by the sounds of it. So, or has had very, very little sleep, although Arlo and Nessie did have a bit of a barking fit at about 6 a.m. So I've been up since then. Right, let's go in, and we will go in as ever at the top of the league. And that means Norwich, who won 2-1 over at Cardiff. And we're getting to the point now with Norwich, 50 points on the table, where if this kind of point scoring lasts 2, 3, 4 more games, it starts to look like basically for Norwich to not get in the top 6 starts to be impossible. They'd have to be so bad it's not true. And it starts to get to the point where it's 1.3, 1.4 points per game for the rest of the season, which is kind of average mid-table form to finish automatic. So they are setting themselves up absolutely beautifully for, a championship or certainly a promotion here. There is the team. No mention of an injury crisis anymore. Although Krul out with COVID. Across the back there, Aarons, Hanley, Gibson, Sorensen, Skip and McLean, who seems to have played himself in there ahead of Lucas Rupp. Buendia, Vrancic, Cantwell. No Pookie, but still can call on Jordan Hugill when Pookie is not about. Slight downgrade, but most championship clubs would take Jordan Hugill certainly as one of their striking options. Cardiff, Smithies, Bakuna, Nelson, Bennett and Bagan. Now, that's important when we look at goal number 2. Joe Bennett, who is not a centre-half, is going to play at centre-back. No Sean Morrison. Volks pack rules in the most championship midfield you could ever get. Hoylett, Glatzel, Wilson up the top. And Norwich lead early in this one. Flicked on at the near post, I think, by Vrancic, which surprised me. I always saw him as a creative type, not a flick on at the near post type. And Hanley there at the back post. Set plays, guys. A lot of set plays we're going to look at in today's games. This second goal is a really lovely goal. If Jordan Hugill had put it in, it's the only blot on the copybook. Really nice passing from Norwich through the thirds. They tear right through Cardiff. But just as I mentioned, just watch the last pass. Joe Bennett just gets suckered in and lets Hugill go. And before I get any Norwich fans complaining, that two things can be true. It can be a lovely goal, which it was, and Bennett just gets suckered in at the last. Hugill's shot gets parried. Cantwell puts it in. I tell you what would have been an absolute picture book if Pookie had been playing, because he'd have probably just slotted it in the corner really smoothly, as he tends to do. Cardiff tried to get back into it in the second half. Nice assist play by Bakuna here, and Rolls puts it home. But silly Billy, Marlon Pack, who's already on a yellow card, throws himself into that tackle. Who is that he's caught there? Is it Skip? Who invented the skip? And gets himself red carded, and Norwich are able to see the game out. I always say Norwich win tight games, but this, when you look at the numbers, doesn't really have the air of a tight game. It looks like they were pretty good value for it. The Canaries there, 55% on the possession, 17 shots. Norwich just very, very consistently just have loads of the ball and create loads of chances, don't they? It's kind of the entire purpose of football, isn't it? They're just a good side, aren't they? 7 corners to 3, 3 big chances to 1 is always revealing. Norwich get the win. And as I said, we'll come to your comments in a sec. It's just very impressive. 50 points already up now at 24 games. And you start to do the maths, and we think it may be reasonably high tide this season. It could be that Norwich are just way out in front by the end of it. I was guessing that we might get 2 or 3 teams in a title race, and there might be 2 or 3 teams on 84, 85 plus by the end of the season. But you start looking at it. So for Norwich to get 85 points now, there's 22 games left. 22 games, 35 points. That's pretty much like 8th or 9th place form, I would imagine, if you do them. There you go, you can work it out. So Stoke have got 36 from 24, and you're saying Norwich need 35 from 22. you'd see my point now. They've played themselves into such a position by winning 15 of the first 24 that really it's get to the top of the hill and you can maybe start pedaling in a few games' time, because Norwich are just doing excellently, well over the 2 points per game. There would be 48, which projects 92, which will pretty much guarantee you the championship. Let's have a look at your comments. Good morning, old boy. Doing good. Absolutely. Need a coffee, Sean. Would you believe I've already had 2? Another 1-2 says Dan, is Norwich win tight games. And Dan, if they did it 2 or 3 times, you'd say, oh, that swung for them. But when it's just consistent every single week, it's got to go down as good game management and just, okay, you can concede a goal, but they just consistently have 15 plus shots a game and 3 or 4 big chances. It's just a good, well-coached football team, isn't it? With a really good squad at championship level. And, it's that we know how that ends up over a season. Rupp's still not right to play. We love a 2-1, says Adam. Cardiff came back second well, playing route 1 to Moore. Good news for Cardiff to have Kiefer Moore back. Do you think Harris is on the brink? Not on the brink yet, Mr. E, but pressure building. We need a sort of ratchet in for the pressure, don't we? Krull, Ida, Mumba, Quintia with COVID, Rupp and Martin unwell. Not as bad, but still a few out. Yeah, with injuries, I don't, honestly, and I'm not being churlish about this, because yes, that's a lot of players out, Richard. It's not the players that are out that's what you have to look at. It's what can the club put on the pitch whilst the players are out. And obviously earned money that's afforded them to have this squad with the last promotion. But they've still been able to just put out consistently good teams with a consistently good pattern of play. Morning to Adam. Elliot says, love Harris saying we're better than Leeds last year. Well, I dare say that may be someone trying to defend their job, having lost 2 games to Norwich in the space of a month. But we'll judge at the end of the season. I think most Norwich fans would admit that that's not true, and that Norwich haven't hit the heights they did in 18-19 yet in terms of the thrill of it all. But hey, sometimes consistent and boringly consistent and just win is better without being necessarily more spectacular. But let's just bring the table up. We didn't mention Cardiff down there. Look at that, 5 straight defeats. They are bottom of the 6-game form table. I did have a stat for you as well. Norwich last 35 away games in the championship, so spanning over a season and a bit. 20 wins in 35 away games and 70 points. 2 points per game away from home. Not even so over most of a season without any home games even. That's 70 points. So they're just superb, well, away from home and at home, aren't they? Richard says, get that, Ben. Krull and Pookie, the big ones at the moment. Totally agreed. We all know, and I've speculated about this, that, let me try and quantify this with numbers. I suspect Buendia being out for 10 games would cost Norwich more points than 5 first-teamers being out for 15 games. I would suggest that there are people who really make that team tick. We're not as free-flowing. Yeah, that's true, actually, Dan. That's true. There was that massive element of surprise when that autumn in 18-19 when everyone was like, oh, what's happening to Norwich? They're on a good run. And it just continued for the entire season. So, yeah, that is a reasonable point in terms of being free-flowing. But in terms of the comparison with Leeds, that would put Leeds ahead because Leeds were free-flowing against the low block every single week, weren't they? But it's Neil Harris's comparison. But I think he might be in a bit trying to save his job, saying he was playing against a good team, which, of course, he was. Moving on to Swansea in second place, and they won 2-0 over at Barnsley last night. And we did it on the watch along, and it gives me absolutely no pleasure to say that this game was horrendous. It was so bad in the first half, it was not true. We'll blame the pitch and the managers essentially telling their players to take no risks, but especially given the quality of the two sides playing, it was a real letdown, particularly the first half of this game, because it was an awful watch. And believe me, I sat there and I tried to make it sound exciting, and I struggled big time. There are the teams, very staid from both. We kind of know what to expect from both in terms of the strategy and the formation, and that didn't help either. 6 good centre halves on the pitch, everybody playing direct and into the channels, and yeah, it was just awful. But that's not been the case generally for these two sides. So we'll put it down as an outlier, as a one-off. Walton, Solbauer, Hellick, Anderson, Styles, Britton, Kane, Mower, Adebayo, Chaplin and Woodrow is the Barnsley team. Swansea, Woodman, Norton, Cabango, Guay, wingbacks, Robertson, Bidwell, Grimes, Fulton, Smith and Ayew and Lowe up top. Get your comments in on this one. There is the opening goal, which was a bit of a surprise because the first half was so awful. I wanted to go and sit in a dark room, but in stoppage time, a throw in from the right-hand side and Cabango heads it in. Now, with our complete pedantry head on, I think it was Tyler who told us this, a Barnsley fan last night, it was a foul throw. Connor Roberts' foot is 2 inches over the line, and in VAR land where your armpit is offside and that decision gets given, foul throw is a foul throw. But I guess you still have to defend it, don't you? If the referee or the linesman can't help you out there. So nicely timed goal for the Swans before half time. Here is Jamal Lowe. There was an offside question on this one. I've watched it back and paused it, etc. Lowe goes through and finishes. What happens is Grimes heads it back in and Lowe is kind of leaning offside then. However, the two Barnsley players, I think it's Hellick and Anderson, go in to clear it. One of them touches it. At that point, Lowe has come around and is onside. And I suspect that our highfalutin friends at Stockley Park would probably reasonably argue that a new phase of play accrued when the two Barnsley players went to play the ball and banged into each other. So the first goal, I think Barnsley fans have got more of a complaint than the second goal. What we do need to say is Jamal Lowe is just on fire at the moment. 7 goals and 7. He goes through on that absolutely horrible pitch and sticks it in for 2-0. I mean, we can gloss over it. It was not great at all. If you look at the numbers, just one big chance in the game. And the real one to look at down the bottom there is possession lost. And these are two reasonably flowing teams. No, flowing teams. Let's just say it about both of them. Both good on transition, both good passing teams. Possession lost during the game 450 times across the 90 minutes. What's that? 20 times a minute. Is that right? Have I done that? Have I done that right? I think I have, haven't I? Yeah, just a horrible game, and we move on. Steve Cooper said as much. And I suppose you have to give Swansea some credit, don't you? Because they went in there on the rubbish pitch, knowing it was going to be like that. Both teams responsible, not anyone, because they were both not taking any risks on the ball whatsoever. And Swansea battled it and got the win. And they are in fine form. 7 clean sheets in 9 for Swansea, 7 in 7 for Jamal Lowe, who's shutting me up all season saying, Swansea need a striker. I'm going to keep saying it. I still think they could, if they look back at this and they do go up and they were to bring in a striker now who just added to Ayew and Lowe, and maybe, imagine they did bring in a striker and one of them could then go and play behind the front two like Curry Smith was yesterday, then I do still think it could help. But Swansea, excellent, and second position, 46 points, 4 points clear of Bournemouth, who will come on to next. Barnsley, well, they're in 10th now. It's 3 defeats in 5. And here's the flat track bully who have you beaten accusation. Barnsley, great run. And if you are going to be a mid-table team, this is fine. But the thing that is perhaps stopping Barnsley progressing any higher is they've won 10 games and 9 of those wins have been against bottom half teams, which, as I say, is fine for 10th place. But a lot of Barnsley fans been getting excited about it going a little bit higher. Yes, they've beaten Watford, but otherwise it's all wins against bottom half teams. Well-run club, moving forward, but they need to beat some of those teams between, not necessarily top 6 teams, but the ones between 7th and 12th to really establish themselves in the top half. And they're in a run at the moment of playing against Norwich, Swansea. And I think the next game's against Watford, isn't it? As well. Could be wrong about that. But let's have a look on the comments. You can move on quickly from this one. Yeah, it wasn't good, David. Was it? Roberts made 2 throws against us last season. Neither was called. Yeah, he's got an interesting... He kind of does the sideways to try and get some extra loop on the throw, doesn't he? I'm not saying that's the foul throw, but he's got to position his feet properly because people will be all over that, won't they? Turgid first half, but the Swans won ugly, showing a good mix of flair and steal. I agree with that, Steve. I do agree with that. And, you know, they say promotions. Can you do it on a wet pudding of a pitch on a cold Saturday night at Barnsley? Yeah. We'd like it if Barnsley play a game as badly again in the Cup on Saturday, but can't see it. Where's the game, Sophie? Is it at Barnsley? Because it might be direct again, and that might be a struggle for Norwich if that pitch is still as bad. Barnsley, a decent side, top 10 finish team. Absolutely, yeah. Remember, they were stoppage time. Basically, as we went into the 90th minute, they were getting relegated last season. So it's been excellent for them. Swansea know how to win this sort of game. Yeah, and you know, we're going to talk about Bournemouth next. Do Bournemouth know how to win this sort of game in terms of finishing top 2? So can't believe we let Corey Smith go to Swansea. Well, it's all about that contract running down, isn't it? And there's a few Championship clubs. Okay, we've got the mitigating factor of COVID now, haven't we? But yes, a lot of Bristol City fans still a bit frustrated that Corey Smith is in second place in the league, starting most weeks for the Swans. Right, Bournemouth versus Luton. Let's go on to this one. And it was Bournemouth 0, Luton 1. It was a surprise, but there is a mitigating factor for us to talk about. And I think you know what I am referring to. There's your Bournemouth team. Begovic, a start for Carter Vickers, Cook and Rico. Stacey and Smith are the wing-backs. Cook and Lerma, and you can see the red card there next to Jeff Lerma's game on the 26th minute. We'll talk about that in a second. Solanke, King and Brooks up top. King starts. He's taken out of it on 70 minutes. Will he still be there at the end of January? I'm almost as fed up of talking about that as I am of Derby's takeover, but there we go. For Luton, Sluga. 3 at the back, assuming Ray didn't play in midfield. Lockyer, Ray and Bradley. Potts and Bree, fullbacks, wingbacks, probably fullbacks, given they were playing Bournemouth away. Berry and Panzu and Dewsbury Hall with Collins and Cornick up top. And let's get into this then, because here is the red card in the 26th minute. So a good sort of 70 minutes if you add the stoppage time in, for Jefferson Lerma, who, according to SofaScore, it says, was red carded for violent conduct. So I'm going to assume SofaScore are right, and we're going to judge this on violent conduct and not serious foul play. Okay. Now, the violent conduct wording says excessive force, brutality, or deliberately striking an opponent with the arm or the head. Okay. So Lerma jumps in to the challenge. You can see he's falling over. He's completely misjudged his jump. He's got both arms out, presumably to support his fall. And and his left hand there is going to hit, I think it's Tom Lockyer, in the face. So for violent conduct, we are looking for excessive force. No, not seeing that. Brutality. No, definitely not. Or deliberately striking. Well, to me, his back is turned and he's falling backwards. So clumsy, but that's not in the wording. Now, were this serious foul play, we would be talking about endangering an opponent or being reckless. But we're not. We're talking about violent conduct. So the long and the short of it is I don't think it's violent conduct. Therefore, I don't think it's a red card. And we'll see if this one gets rescinded. Clumsy at best. Look, if Jeff Lerma has deliberately swung his hand and hit Lockyer in the face to leave one on him whilst falling backwards, then he deserves to stay on the pitch because he's disguised it quite brilliantly. Only he will know. But what I'm saying in a roundabout kind of way is I think Bournemouth have been a bit unlucky here. And it's a red card to a centre midfielder 26 minutes into a game against the team who are good on transition as well, like Luton. And I don't think it's a correct decision. Get your views in the comments. And if it's gone down in the report as violent conduct, that's my... we could have a different conversation if it was serious foul play, which I don't think it is either, by the way. But at least you've got the reckless and endangering an opponent thing there. You know, he's jumping backwards into someone with your hands flailing around, endangering the opponent. But hey-ho, I think it's a tough one. But you take it if you're a Luton fan. And here is Dewsbury Hall. Not great camera work there because we can't even see the goal. He's going to curl it into the corner, left-footed, and they get the win. Now, we were just talking about Swansea winning a tough game in terms of Barnsley away when no one's taking any risk and the ball's flying back and forth at the defences. Would a better side have won this game, even with the 10 men? Sometimes we see teams that go up and, you know, we like Luton, but away from home at Bournemouth, Luton are not the favourites to win the game, are they? Bournemouth are one of our parachute cartel with some excellent players. Can you still go on and win the game with 10 men? I know it's tricky, so maybe I'm being a bit harsh on Bournemouth there, but hey-ho, it's worth asking the question, because if you look at the numbers, 63% on their possession, 14 shots to 8 corners to 4, 1 big chance to 0. So the numbers would intimate that it was still a tight game, and Luton have still come out and pinched a nice goal from Dewsbury Hall. I'll come to your comments in just a second. There is the table. Now, Bournemouth are third, but they are 12th in the 6-game form table. So Bournemouth in the last 6 games are basically Luton over the last 24. So when do we start asking the question, are Bournemouth falling away slightly in this run? Last time I asked that question, they had a nice little purple patch. And if you look at the 10-game form table, they're higher up. But remember, we're talking about Bournemouth in relation to finishing first or second, because that's where they've been all season. And you can't afford too many runs like that with Norwich now 8 points clear of them, Swansea 4 points clear of them, and Brentford tucked in behind with 2 games in hand, and Watford tucked in behind with a game in hand, as do Reading. So essentially, and I know the Brentford-Reading game, both teams can't win that game because they're playing each other, aren't they? But you can see there's a lot of teams directly below Bournemouth within striking distance. So I'd be interested in your views on that. Great win for Luton. First away win in 7 for them. Obviously, the mitigating factor of the red card, but you still got to play the game state, as I always say. And from minute 26, evidently Luton did that better than Bournemouth did. I keep saying about Luton, they're a top half team with their home form. If that drops off, they'll move down the table. But these away wins, I know they had a couple of away wins. I think got 4 away wins. So if they can get that up to 6, 7, 8 through the season and keep their home form and finish in the top half, won't they? Which would be sensational for Luton. Right, let's have a look and see what you guys are saying in the comment. Never a red card. The blooded face made the ref's mind up. Yeah, that's poor if that's the case, Steve, isn't it? You don't judge a foul on what happens to the guy. Obviously, we don't want to see anyone hurt or bloodied or whatever, but it's, you know, he could have bitten his nail before the game and his nail was sharp or whatever, and it just catches the guy. I don't know why I'm scratching myself in the face to prove this, but yeah, I totally agree. I must not underestimate Luton. There you go. There, Sean agrees. Think the ref saw blood on Lockyer's face, produced the red. The picture doesn't do it justice. He's flung his arm back unnaturally, says David, and with intent, in my opinion. If he did, he hit it absolutely beautifully. He spins and his arm kind of comes out and his hand catches his face, doesn't it? So only he will know that, David, whether there's intent or not. And that is important in this because it is deliberately strikes. Of course, if he deliberately strikes the guy, it is a red card. We know that. So only he will know that, won't he? Bournemouth, with the better team, went down to 10. Sluga made several fine saves. Lose to QPR, beat Bournemouth. We'll take that. Luton still had to fight for the win after the red. Doubt this is the point when we see Bournemouth drop off just yet. Yeah, not drop off, but in terms of top two, you've got to be consistent and you can't have too many runs like that unless we get like it was last season where West Brom went up with, 81 or 82 or something. So, yeah, there's just a couple of times where we've seen them drop in that form table below where perhaps they would want to be. Right, Brentford and Reading, we've already mentioned, was postponed. Let me just, because I think it's quite helpful. If I just click this button, you just get them highlighted both in the table. And you can see they're 4th and 6th with the game in hand against each other. Brentford, of course, have 2 games in hand. Forgive me, and I will tell you who the other one is against. I mean, it doesn't really matter because Brentford, Bristol City at home. Brentford obviously have been in tremendous form. I think they're still top of the form table, aren't they? Brentford, despite even not playing, although the form table doesn't take that into account, does it? So it just takes your last 6 games. So Brentford and Reading will they both be in action? Have Brentford done their 10 days? We'll figure it out. I'm sure it won't be decided until Monday as to whether Brentford are in action on midweek, but we'll obviously look at that in the preview show, which will be on Tuesday, I think, at 1 p.m. Right, moving on. Number 5, Watford 2, Huddersfield 0. Get your thoughts in on this one. Watford 2, Huddersfield 0. Another home win for Watford, who have 29 points in 12 home games. They are far and away the best home team in the league, Watford. Just that one home defeat against Cardiff, wasn't it? And can we do a home table here? Yeah, there you go. Comfortably the best home team in the league as well. Look, 4 points more than both Swansea and Norwich. 9 wins in 12. Stupendous home form for the Hornets. Let me just put that back because that'll annoy me later, won't it? Here is your Watford team there. Backman in goal, so no cycling goalkeeper again. Firmino, Ekong, Sierralta and Messina, so slightly different defensive configuration than Ivic used. Ivic linked with Sheffield Wednesday. Sarr, Cleverley, Chalobah, Sema across the middle, Dini and João Pedro up the top. Is Andre Gray done now? We will find out. For Huddersfield, Schofield, Critchlow Noble, Vallejo, look out for him in the first goal, and Edmonds Green, Pippa and Toffolo as wing-backs, we think. Bakuna O'Brien central, Aaron's Rowe, who I don't know a lot about, and Campbell up the top there. And the first goal is well, laughable to say the least. Vallejo, who I mentioned, is the guy with his arms outstretched by the D. He's played a back pass, which is not the worst back pass you'll ever see, but Schofield in goal, silly boy, takes a step back. And okay, we always expect football players to be able to judge A, the distance, the speed of the ball, B, their position on the pitch, and cleverly running in, chasing in. But it's a real oversight from Schofield to take that step back because, look, he's miles away from cleverly there. It's not even a 50-50 in the end, is it? Cleverly hot favourite to win that after the step back. And he just sticks it into the net. So, I mean, we had this conversation doing Dearly Departed when it was Romain Sawyers played the ball firmly back for an own goal, wasn't it? And Johnston had stepped outside his post. I just feel with back passes, if you can play it outside of the post, you do negate a lot of this stuff. But hey, if the keeper steps back and there's someone pressing, this still happens. So horrible first goal. Second one's a little bit better because that's João Pedro sticking it in. But it's a really nice assist from Kiko Firmino. Knocks it outside his man, runs in, crosses it in. I think Deeney could have put it in and it ends up with João Pedro, who maybe that'll be a front two going forward for Watford now, who, as I say, are a brilliant team at home. Can they get their away form? Should we just put the away table up just out of pure interest, and we'll see that Watford are 17th best away team. So, yeah, it's quite clear what they need to do. Anywhere near their current home form with even a vague uptake of 4 or 5 more points in their away form, and they'll be looking much, much better than that. As it stands, Cisco has been manager for 3 games. He's won 2 and lost 1. However, his first 2 games were Norwich at home and Swansea away. So remember, okay, small minutiae is decided in those top 6 games, isn't it? But you can get yourself up, and we've seen teams do this just by punishing the bottom half. And you can look at a promotion team sometimes, and it could be, that Watford can do it just on the basis. What happens if they win 18 out of 23 home games? Do you know what I'm saying? You're already 64 points there, aren't you? So we have seen teams do it just by either being very good at home or punishing the bottom teams, and that's been the difference. So that's the hope for Watford at the moment, although, of course, the away form could pick up. Huddersfield, 2 points in 7 games away from home. They are not a good away team. And like Luton, it's the home form that's got them up in 14th. However, given all the circumstance there, they are 12 points above our bottom 4, which is a very clear bottom 4 at the moment. Let's have a look at your comments. What are we saying here? Come on, you bees. Come on, you blues. I don't know. Skipper says, we've got Luton on Wednesday, so thanks for the warning not to underestimate them. Has Ben Foster been dropped? No, he is injured. Charlie, have a look on the bottom. The running order is ticking across there. Another lovely shirt. Thank you. Comment of the day. First goal entirely Schofield's fault. A pity because from what I've seen, he's been decent so far. He's only a young keeper as well. Second half performance at Man City in the Cup and a win at Borough. We'll get on to Blues in a bit. John says, injuries are killing us. So many teams have had this season with the fixtures just bumped up pretty much 2 a week all season, basically. It's going to be with, you get the odd gap, but then that gap is then negated by, I don't know, playing, what was it, 12 games in 9 weeks or something? No, 9 games in 5 weeks, wasn't it? It was just literally going into Christmas, Saturday midweek, the whole entire time. So very, very difficult. Hopeful for a run now. No one in the top 6 for the next 9 games. Interesting, David. We'll have a look at that. In fact, I did a video on that, didn't I? Deeney should have been sent off, says El Capone. I disagree. I did have a look at that tackle, and I don't think it made the serious foul play criteria in terms of endangering opponent excessive force. He took the guy out. He did, but I don't think it was serious foul play there. Yeah, no cycling goalkeeper video. What happens if a load of other players decide that they want to have a YouTube channel and we have like a whole series of GoPros set up around the pitch? Dear me. We will answer that because we didn't do Brentford. How do you think losing an influential player and captain for 3 months will affect the Bees? Well, you wonder at the end if they can't get in the top 2, will that be the difference now? Skipper is talking about Pontus Jansson, who is obviously the skipper of Brentford as well. Obviously, they've got Charlie Good and Ethan Pinnock and Sorensen as well. Yeah, could be the difference. We'll see how good Brentford are without Jansson. Although he's not a player who does bang out 40 games a season. He wasn't that guy even when he was at Leeds. So remains to be seen. But it's a very pertinent question. I agree. Let's move on. It was Middlesbrough 0, Birmingham 1. Get your comments in on this one. And if, like me, you were somewhat surprised by this result, given Middlesbrough's very good home form and Birmingham's, well, just bad form period over recent times. Bettinelli, Dykesdale, Fry, McNair, Boller across the back for Borough. Wing, Morsey, Saville, Johnson, Akpom, Tavernier. For Birmingham, Etheridge, Collins, San Jose, Dean, Friend, Kieften, Bell, Sunjic, Sanchez, Terrell, Bella, and Hogan is the side there. As Karanka looks for the formula, well, he's got a win. So I wonder if he sticks with this. And I have to say, what a lovely goal this was. I've done the poll, and we can talk about goal of the week. But this is a brilliant goal by Birmingham, and that's Hogan tapping it in. But what you don't see is a beautiful bit of play by Ivan Sanchez, who comes inside from the right and disguises this back heel beautifully. And who's the fullback? It's Max Collin, isn't it? Crosses it in, and Hogan puts the finish in. There was one real close call where Borough hit the bar and it kind of bounces down off the line and doesn't quite go over. But really good win in the end for Blues. Let me just take a swig of my water. I've been doing a lot of talking this weekend. It doesn't sound like me, does it? One big chance apiece, 3 shots on target to 2. It's Karanka versus Warnock. It was tight. It is what it is. And Birmingham with that one moment of quality, and it wins them the game. And it's been such a bad run for Birmingham. They'll be well happy with that. They have got Birmingham. It's very odd, this. If you look at the table, they've got 26 points. 18 of those have come away from home. So if they can sort out their home form, they're a mid-table team, but that has not been happening. How high are they actually up the away table? 8th best away team in the division. And look at that, 10 points in the last 5 away from home. Obviously, the home form not reflecting that in the slightest. Borough, they just can't get in the top 6, can they? When they get close, they falter. Look at that, 2 defeats in 3. They're still in good form. If you look at the last 6 games, they've got 4 wins and 2 defeats. So keep that going, you will end up in the top 6. But just their timing seems a bit off, Borough, doesn't it? And inconsistent. 6 wins, 6 defeats in the last 12. And for all you win in 6 games, your average is coming back to that 1.5 points per game, which just isn't enough to get you up, is it? You need to be more consistent than that. What are we saying here? Karanka, Clayton and Friend return, says Matt. Yes, a lot of old faces there. Sean, sorry, I'm struggling with my voice today. Brum played great sort of last half hour. Bad day at the office for Borough. Well worked, guys. Lovely goal, wasn't it, David? Really like that one. Max Collin played well. Borough looked off the pace, week off training. That is a perfectly pertinent point, David. Blue switched to a back 5 in the second half. We tried at Man City. Seemed to work. Interesting. Matthew says, we were awful yesterday. You can really tell the COVID outbreak took it out of us. Fair comment, fair comment. Skipper's answering his own question there. You wonder, is it worth Brentford just dropping a bit of money and loaning an experienced centre? I remember Ipswich years ago doing that with Matt Elliott, just loaning in like a 35-year-old centre-back who's played at the top level a lot and just dropping them in, although Brentford is so pattern of play related. Ben, I'm always late for the Norwich review. Spool back. It's always going to be, I think it's going to be first for most of the season. That was the back five. We'll see what Karanka does going forward. Whether it was, I think Matt's possibly saying they were better with that system than the 4-2-3-1, even though they probably scored the goal with the 4-2-3-1. But that doesn't always tell the whole picture. Right, let's move on and get your comments in on Blackburn 1, Stoke 1, and the archetypal unhelpful draw that I always talk about. There's no team any good. This one does it. A draw's okay when you're both right in the same place in the table and you don't want anyone to really drop. But when you're outside of those playoff positions, it just does no good, does it? There is your Blackburn team. Kaminsky, Nyambe, Lenihan. Debut for Braithwaite on loan from Everton. Douglas. Dak, Travis, Johnson. Dak in and starting now, which is great. We've missed him. Elliott, Armstrong. Rothwell moved forward into the front three. Stoke, Bursick, Collins, Suter, Chester. Matondo and Norrington Davis. Did Matondo play wing-back? Interesting. Allen, Mikel, Thompson, Brown and Powell. I thought Matondo played further forward. Hey, that could be just my lack of knowledge rather than anything amiss there. Here are the goals. And Nick Powell, sorry, a bit blurry. He's great, Nick Powell, because he's basically like a striker who positions himself in midfield. He's a good finisher. He's a big guy who can get forward and score headed goals like that, but he still completes his midfield roles. Do you remember Kevin Nolan, who was not like an amazing footballer, but was a good finisher, a good runner? He was good enough to hold his midfield duties, but then as an extra attacking player, I think Powell is very similar in that kind of skill set, although a bit sort of bigger and more powerful. He's done it all his career as well, Powell. Here is the equalising goal. Nyambe, I think it's cut back, and who's that? Buckley sticks that one home. Blackburn normally punish 10 men. There is James Chester, and I suspect that was actually quite a clever thing to do because Armstrong's going through, and who's that next to him? Is that Brereton running in next to him? Armstrong has proven himself pretty deadly in those 1v1 situations. So Chester maybe takes one for the team there and prevents the defeat, but obviously then gets himself a suspension. Here is the numbers. Not very eventful. One big chance apiece. The worry, if you are a Stoke fan, is that is one win in 8 for Stoke. They are not in good form. They're drawing loads and loads of games. And despite their additions, which look quite good, Norrington Davis and Clark. Was Clark on the bench? Let me just check that real quick. Yeah, Clark got on for Nick Powell, who's picked up an injury. So that's not good news. I know Stoke have had their injury problems. So despite those 3 additions, which look quite smart, they're just not getting the wins, are they? And the same really for Blackburn. 9 points in 9 games. So essentially both Blackburn and Stoke over sort of 8 and 9 games are, in bottom 6 form. And you can see there that gap up to 40 points to Reading. You start to worry whether the playoffs are getting a little bit out of reach the longer that goes on. Let's go to your comments. Kai says Harvey Elliott is class. He is indeed a wonderful player, but that's not enough at the moment, is it, for Blackburn? Let's move on to Bristol City 2, Preston 0. get your comments in on that one. Hopefully the comments are still working because we haven't had one for 3 minutes. There we go. We've got one. Relegation form for Stoke. Can't believe we're still 8th, says Stephen. You just hope we'll trend one or two ways, won't it? You'd expect a regression to the mean and they'll improve shortly, Stephen. Fingers crossed for you as a Stoke fan, of course. Right, moving on. And it's Bristol City 2, Preston 0. And I believe this is the end of a hoodoo. 15 straight games without losing, Preston against Bristol City. And Bristol City finally managed to beat their bogey team. I don't know how many years that one goes back. Let's have a look at those teams. Bentley, Hunt, Callis, Mawson back in. That just looks a bit different with him in there, doesn't it? And Rowe. Adelaide, did Viner really play central midfield? Any Bristol City fans tell me that? Naj and Palmer, surely that would have been a back three, wouldn't it? I don't know. Jeju and Martin up top, so no Wells or Semenyo. Everson starts in goal in the absence of Rudd for Preston. Fisher, Huntington, Davis, Hughes. Alan Brown, replete with new contract, starts, although some interesting comments about Ben Pearson. That looks all done, doesn't it? He doesn't look like he's going to play for Preston again. Ben Whiteman makes his debut. Buck, Hayes and Johnson Sinclair. Maguire up the top. Here are the goals. And it's another set play. And Jeju is very good. I remember Lee Johnson actually saying this. Excuse me, on the set plays, gets up there, 6 yards out, powers that one in. I think it's his 5th of the season, someone said in the chat yesterday. Excuse me. And I love this goal. This is brilliant. Bounces up for Viner, completely mishits it, slices it, and it just floats beautifully into the corner to Everson's right there. Viner, his first goal, I believe, for Bristol City. Bristol City, as I say, it was the end of a bad streak against Preston. They're still not losing the streaky tag, are they? Look at that. Lose. And then 6 points across the last 3 games. Is this the height of the ambition, though, for Bristol City this season, to just stay in that second quartile and be an upper mid-table team with however many games to go and see if you can go on a streak? Preston, I don't know. I never know what to say about Preston. That's 6 defeats in 8 away in all competitions, when at the start of the season they had the best away form in the whole league and the worst home form. So they're just all over the place. Look at that, 10 wins and 12 defeats. 10 wins is the same as Borough and 1 less than Brentford and Bournemouth. But 12 defeats is the same as Derby and Rotherham. So they're just a very, very erratic team. And I think they're a side in transition, aren't they? They're going to be moving away from Pearson and Johnson, probably going forward with the way the contracts are running down. So if they're sticking with Alex Neil, he's going to have to build a new Preston team, basically, and probably go again next season if they want to challenge in the top half. Let's have a look at your comments. Oh, excellent. I can open the fake news sin bin and we can put Ahmed in, because I've got no idea what he's talking about. So we won't be hearing from Ahmed in the next 5 minutes. And in he goes to the fake news sin bin. Remember, the first person to super chat becomes the king of the bin if you want to own the sponsorship for the wonderfully juvenile fake news sin bin. What are you guys saying in the chat? Viner did play centre midfield. Thank you, Liam. 10 years since they've beaten them. Charlie, watched the game as a City fan. Relieved to beat Preston after 10 years. Whiteman, we're looking forward to see how he gets on, signed from Doncaster. And Viner did play midfield. He agrees too. Interesting. Bristol too inconsistent. Brizzle. Thanks for Corey Smith. Let's not open up that Pandora's box between the Bristol City and Swansea fans again. Okay, Forest, speaking of open up a Pandora's box, let's talk about Millwall. Forest 3, Millwall 1. get your comments in on this one. One team very much headed in the right direction. One team very much headed in the wrong direction. I think we know who is who. Chris Houghton doing lovely old things now. 12 points in 6 games for Forest. And we all know that is promotion form. They needed an upward trend and they have got it. Samba, Christie, Worrell, McKenna, Ribeiro, Sal and Yates, Amiobi, Cafu, Myton, Graben. That's what he's come up with. I didn't think it would be like that. I thought he would be using Luke Freeman and Joe Lolly. No, Harry Arter either. A lot of players come in and, Houghton, he wants people who can follow instructions and don't play off the cuff so much. You can always take 1 or 2. I know he had knockout at Brighton, but generally it's sort of solid and steady, which is more than you can say for Millwall at the moment, who are very unsteady. Bialkowski, Hutchison, Pearce, Cooper, McNamara continues playing. That's a bright spot for them with Malone the other side. Leonard and Woods, Parrott, Zahor, Wallace. Any Millwall fans in the chat, let me know what's happening with Zahor. There's some suggestions that Big Sam might want to use him at West Brom and that loan will conclude. But I'm hearing conflicting things there. Let's have a look at the goals. There is the opener. And yeah, I always try and defend Ryan Woods because Millwall fans are less than enamoured with him. But yeah, it's really poor here. Amiobi works him inside and he doesn't stop the shot. I think is it Ben Thompson in the D there who's furious with him afterwards. Cooper goes in to close it down. I think it takes a little nick, but it still flies in the corner. And Bialkowski looks possibly a little bit unsighted. The second one, however, is a beaut. You can see Myton in the box there. Just knocked that back to Amiobi. And that's a great finish. Curls it into the far corner first time. Left-footed. Great game for Amiobi. 2 goals for him. Yesterday, Ryan Yates, you can see on the near post, sticking home a set play. 3-0. Ben Thompson gets 1 back. Good players make good shapes. Good technique on that half volley, isn't it? And Thompson sticks that one through the crowd and makes it 3-1. But the crowd are not happy at all with Gary Rowett. A lot of my Millwall friends, just not impressed at all. Let's talk about Forest first, who have 12 points in the last 6 games. And look at the table as well. They were wedged down there for the longest time. Now we have a bottom 4 and Forest are not part of it. They've got 25 points, 6-point gap opened up with that recent run. Yes, I do accept the mitigating factor that Forest have played more games than everyone, but nobody going up as far as, well, even looking at the teams in the top half. I guess Preston have got a winning run there. Nobody down the bottom is scoring points at the rate that Forest are at the moment, and they're not losing games either. So it seems to be coming to pass the way we thought it was, where Forest had that really horrible run, wasn't it, where they literally played all of the top teams and lost to all of them. But since then, good job, Chris Houghton. And let's call it as it is. Frankly, with that squad and, that team, they should be trending their way up the table. And we'll see where it takes them. Probably end up somewhere in the middle, you would imagine, if that's not too non-specific. Millwall have scored 11 points in their last 15 games. Only Rotherham have been worse than that in the entire division, and they've played 2 games fewer. So I think if Rotherham just score a couple of points in those 2 games, which they may not, Millwall essentially are the worst team in the division over a sample size of pretty much a quarter, well, over a quarter of a season, 15 games, a third of a season. They've been the second worst team in the division points-wise. And I'm always, if you're going to change it, how long have you given it and who would you have? And I try and get a nice balanced conversation. But when you throw up stats like that, it's not looking good there at the moment. Should we see what the comments say? Owen, glad we got the win. 3 in a row. Is that all comps? Indeed. Good assist for Milton. Yeah, great game for Ami Obi. Houghton didn't get Norwich promoted, took over from Lambert winning the Prem and got us relegated effectively. Sacked with 5 games to go. I don't think I said he got Norwich promoted, did I, Richard? I don't think I said that, but I'm sure you are right. When are you next on Lions TV? Darren was having a meltdown. Does he need calming down? Bless him. He watches. He watches every week. Since Chris may not be here, I'll say it for him. Row it out. Chris must have been watching NFL. Oh dear, I can't do fake news sin bin. Deary me. Right, we're going to have to do a block. It's going to be a rare block, Ahmed. Bye-bye. Oh, is this a conversation in the chat? Oh, okay. Sorry, Richard, who wasn't disagreeing with me, disagreeing with Journeyman in the chat. But what has to be said is Chris Houghton's points per game and winning record in the Championship with Birmingham, Brighton and Newcastle is ludicrous. He wins lots of games in the Championship. Yes, Newcastle obviously, had their advantages, didn't they, in terms of size? And Brighton did spend, but he got them working, didn't he? So let's see if he can do the same with Forest. Yeah, apologies, Richard. I've just figured that out. Right, let's move on. 2 games postponed, so we'll gloss over, but we'll look in the table. It was due to be, let me just get the highlights away. It was due to be Coventry Wednesday. So Coventry 17th, Wednesday 21st. And even though Wednesday in really good point scoring form with 10 in the last 4, a gap opening up there, which makes it a bottom 4. And yes, you can argue, okay, Wednesday aren't in the bottom 3, but you don't want to get cut adrift and when everyone's playing for one survival place. But then you can have carnage like you did last season where it could have been 6 or 7 teams with still sort of 3 games to go. Coventry, 26 points. Trucking along. Let's see if they can sustain. The other postponement was QPR Wycombe, which I think QPR might be a bit disappointed about because obviously Austin had arrived. And they'd beaten Luton, hadn't they? I think they would have fancied that game at this weekend. Obviously, it is what it is with COVID, but Wycombe are 4 points adrift. Doesn't really affect a lot them. I just thought QPR were in a moment where it could have been advantageous for them to be playing Wycombe this weekend. Finally, in his first game as an official football manager, Wayne Rooney's derby, just to wind up all Derby fans. Hey, I supported Roy Keane's Ipswich for a couple of years, so I feel your pain in terms of your club being defined by the manager. But that's what happens when you have a big name. But Derby County, former English champions, lost 0-1 at home to Rotherham here. A rare away win for Rotherham, who had lost 8 straight away games in all competitions going into this one. And we've got all sorts of flowery statistics about Paul Warren's horrendous away record with Rotherham over 3 different campaigns now in the Championship. Obviously, the first one, not really his fault because he came in to a sinking ship there. But they don't pick up many points away from home. So there'll be cock-a-hoop about this one. Roos is in goal there. No Marshall. Byrne, Wisdom, Clark, Buchanan, Shinian Bielik, Josh Viak, Knight, Waghorn, who is not popular there. He can come back to Ipswich if he wants. And Kazim Richards up top. Still no action in the window, but I can't be bothered to talk about a Derby takeover until it happens. So that will likely be why. Blackman, Olasunde, Ehekwa, Wood, McDonald, Harding across the back there. Lindsay, Barlas, Wiles, Smith, and Crooks, although Crooks is normally a number 10 rather than a striker. Rotherham had one disallowed in the first half for offside, but they get over the line here. Lindsay just forcing that one home. And what happens is Keller Roos just gets stuck behind all those bodies and can't get back across the goal to be in a useful position. And Lindsay sticks it home. Derby, stretching back into last season, have one win in their last 15 home games, which is hopeless home form. They've obviously improved a lot since McLaren arrived back and Koku left and Rooney and Rossini had been doing it. But that is a home defeat against a direct rival, and it is 3 defeats in 4. So to use a well-worn football cliche, he still has his work cut out here. We'll see how things all pan out, whether anyone gets sucked in or we do have a bottom 4 sort of picture. We'll see. It could even split in fracture even more, but let's hope it's not all dull and we get some sense of jeopardy and competition down the bottom there. But great win for Rotherham, 6 points in the last 4 for them. I mean, we know the deal with Rotherham. They don't overspend. They're small in championship terms. They punch their weight a lot. It's just, can they win the odd tight game? That will keep them up. They historically this season lose the tight games, but they've come away with this win and stating the bleeding obvious, but more of those and will increase the chances. They're just hoping for chaos, aren't they, Rotherham? They hope Sheffield Wednesday you get chaos, a bad appointment or something like that, and they'll be hoping that the Derby takeover doesn't transpire. That's the hope for a Rotherham or a Wickham down there. Derby, well, away you go, Mr. Rooney. Do your work, but again, takeover ahoy. That needs to get done before anything useful happens. Good win for Rotherham. Owen is putting Forest forward as team of the week. You might have stolen my thunder there. I was thinking about my write-up that I have to do at tribalfootball.co.uk that you can read tomorrow. I think I might go for Forest as well. Good result. Rotherham need to follow it up. Yes, 100%. And following it up does not mean one win in the next 7, does it? Right. Speaking of what Owen was saying, goal of the week and team of the week. If I open up another panel, is that the right word? You will be able to see the poll that I put up for goal of the week. Let me know your thoughts in respects of goal of the week. That's only been up an hour or two. 88 votes. Cantwell, 47%. Dewsbury Hall, 17%. Hogan, 15%. And Amiobi, 22%. Get your ideas in there for goal of the week. Let me know what you think on that one. That poll is also on Twitter. And what about team of the week? I think my goal of the week is Hogan for Birmingham. I like Cantwell's goal. It would have been if Hugel had scored and it hadn't been a rebound. The passing is beautiful beforehand, but there was just something more aesthetically pleasing to my eye. And the Amiobi goal was great as well, but I love a nice passing move about the Birmingham goal. So I think I'll go for Hogan, brother. Zach Viner with the most intentional goal of the week. Well, at least he didn't run off like Alan Shearer, as some people do when they score a fluky goal. Yeah, we had Dewsbury Hall in. I don't know how many percent he got. 17% there in third place. Team of the week. Let me know your thoughts on team of the week. So Norwich extend their lead. Could it be them? Swansea battle their way out in a horrible, turgid game. Watford keep up the good home record. Luton win at Bournemouth, but with the red card into the bargain. Bristol City end the hoodoo against Preston. Forest beat Millwall and Rotherham get the away win at Derby. I think I'm going to go for Forest. I think I'm going to agree with Owen. And I know it's team of the week, but there is context to this, that they've continued to push forward Forest. And it's a good win against Millwall with a really nice goal from Amiobi in there. Owen's gone for Forest. Rotherham team of the week. Luton second. Forest or City team of the week. Rotherham there. Right. That's our show. That is the Championship review. So thank you, everybody, for joining me for the 9:30 start. Numbers picked up. It's actually decent at the end. We will be back in a few hours, actually, at 2 p.m. for Sheffield United playing Spurs in the dearly departed as a watch along. Excuse me. So join me for that. As ever, Super Chat is a great way to support, although we're at the end of this. Patreon is the one, though, isn't it? Subscribe via Patreon to support the channel and receive regular Patreon-only exclusive content, including post-stream summaries and quick predictions. And, of course, if you're still here, please hit the like button. You've already commented. If you're watching on delay, please get your comments in on what we've had to say. And hit subscribe and ring the bell, even if you don't even log into YouTube. It helps me out having more subscribers, brings more people to the channel. It works there. Algorithm. That was the Championship review and reaction for round 24. Thank you again, everyone, for watching. Thank you to Russ, who is our fan sponsor, a fan and now a friend despite Ben's terrible taste in football teams. And I will see you very soon. Rest that throat, indeed. Thank you, Richard. And Owen's got his predictions out. Join me later if you are at a loose end in this lockdown. We will be watching along Spurs and Sheffield United. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And all that remains for me to do is pull my earphones out and say over and out. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button to see more videos from this channel. Hit the subscribe button and to be notified every time we upload. Ring the bell for those notifications to come through on your device. If you really want to support the channel and me as a content creator, I will be eternally grateful if you head over to the merch store and grab something, or support over on Patreon, patreon.com/Benjamin Bloom. Thank you for your time. Go and watch another video.